Hey, it's Nay. And welcome back to Nay's Little Garden and Home. Well, it's been a minute. I am really and truly a bit overwhelmed, as well as just getting into the swing of the effort it takes to garden, because I have quite a bit grown my garden. Some things fell through. We'll talk about that in another video. What I want to talk about today is growing a garden to survive. So I'm seeing a lot of videos on like the victory gardens and start a garden now and save thousands of seeds, so and only buy like this and only pick up these things, and you better not buy starts. And I'm seeing a lot of things online that could send a lot of people into spiral that it's not necessary. I want to just break down for you kind of very, very, very loose, basic things that you really should be focusing on when it comes to starting up a garden. Okay? Whatever your reasoning are, the priority is the ability to actually start the garden and then sustain said garden. Off bat, before you buy anything, before you start looking at seeds and start joining groups and hopping on YouTube, all these things, the first thing you need to do is figure out how many growing days do you have where you live. Things like what is your zone and the amount of growing days. How do you figure that out? The first day of frost and your last day of frost. If you do not have frost, that also works, but then you need to look at the hottest days. Think like 80 degrees and up, and what are your coldest temps, and how many days of the coldest temps do you typically have. None of this is exact. You're getting general numbers. So for example, I'm in zone 6. I have about 160 growing days. And this is with no extra structures to extend my time. Just if I were to throw some seeds or put some starts out, depending on the plant and what time I'm putting them out, I should get a harvest within that time. So for 160 days, you don't want to grow anything, and how cold your zone gets or how hot. You don't want to grow anything that takes longer than the amount of growing days that you have and can't handle the heat. You don't want to grow anything that can't handle the excessive heat that you can get, or don't grow it during that time. And you don't want to grow anything that can't handle the excessive cold, or make sure you don't grow it during that time. What does that mean? So for example, I have all 4 seasons, okay? In the winter, I'm not trying to grow tomatoes outside. That's unrealistic. I have actual frosts. It gets very cold here. We get very little sun, so it doesn't make any sense, right? Versus trying to grow something like lettuce and broccoli in the heat of the summer. Let me plant some broccoli June 30th, July 4th of July. You might find it bolting significantly faster because those are more cool weather crops. The next thing I think is most important is to grow what you already eat. You can make time and space to grow things and teach yourself to like things later. For now, you don't want to just be tossing seeds or starts into the ground and you don't even eat that. Your family doesn't eat that. There are so many different things you can grow. Broccoli, cabbage, radish, tomato, peppers, onions, garlic, potatoes, strawberries, sweet potatoes, blueberries, rhubarb, kale, lettuce, carrots, blackberries, apple, peaches, figs, pears, spinach, rutabaga, beans, peas, a whole bunch of different teas, peanuts, summer squash, winter squash, cucumbers, leeks, herbs, eggplants, asparagus, and I can keep going on. There are a ton of different things. There's a high chance or that grows in somewhere in the world. And just because you like it doesn't mean you can grow it, right? So in zone 6, where we have a winter, I can't be growing tropical fruits here without some type of excessive assistance, right? That could end up costing lots of money. i.e., I'm not going to be trying to grow mangoes, okay, and bananas here, okay? That's something that you need to take into play. So once you know how many days of typical growing season you have and the zone you live in, then you can look into the type of plants that people can typically grow in those zones. Once you have that list, you then go through that list and you pick out the things that you already consume. If you find you don't right now eat a lot of fruit, a lot of vegetables, and you can't really grow a ton of fruits in your zone, I'm gonna need you to slowly acclimate adding veggies into your diet from the grocery store. Go to the grocery store and buy one little bunch of carrots or one little thing or one little thing of broccoli, something that you think you could do. You can most definitely train yourself to like a lot of different things. Not everything. Some things you'll never like, and that's okay. But when it comes to fruits and veggies, these are things you should be consuming some variation of. And so making sure there are things that you like of that you can grow, that is your sweet spot. Start small. Times are scary. I gather that. I understand that. However, if you go from never gardening in your life to putting 7 raised beds that are 6 by 3 feet, mind you, the raised beds are what, $30 to $50 a pop? If you're going off of like, big box stores and stuff like that, maybe even $30 to $200 a pop. And then you have to fill that, and that's a lot of more money. And then the next thing you turn around, you dropped $1,000, $2,000, and then your crops fail. Guys, how you feel about things will really make or break how much effort and time you end up putting into it, and or if you will do it again the next year. And sustainability, the ability to be able to keep doing things over and over again, is important, because that is what makes the garden truly useful, right? So start small. How do we start small? Nay, what does starting small look like? Let me help you. My name is Nay. I garden in Zone 6. I have a very small urban backyard. I live on a 1/4 acre, and I've been gardening for about 3 years now, and I would say it's reasonably successful. I am no master. I am someone still learning. And sometimes I feel like, definitely go look at people who've been gardening 10, 15, 20 years, but also it could help to look at other people who are newer to it and working their way through it, because they might come across issues and situations that you will come across, and it might be easier to relate. So if that makes any sense to you, hit that like button, subscribe, and let's keep going. What does starting small look like? Well, how much land do you have? Do you even have land? Where would you be growing? These are a lot of questions. In order to deduce, let's just say you do have land. Because if you don't have land, you can still grow. You can still grow on your deck. You can grow inside of your house. Growing in your house does require, oftentimes, more things, right? So now you need a lighting system, some type of lighting to grow those plants. You need the space in your place to grow those plants. And perhaps there's certain plants that would work better than others. Stick with me. We'll get to that later on. We're going to stick with right now, you have something outside, whether that is a deck, a porch, or actual very small plot of land. Small could look like 1 pot, 1 grow bag, 1 raised bed. Starting with 1 to 2 of these things will help you to avoid overwhelm. There are a lot of things that can go right with gardening, and just as many, if not more, things that can go wrong. So you don't want to think, oh, there's nothing here. And then 35 to 60 days later, it's a jungle and you have no idea what's going on. It happens, and it happens rapidly, I promise. So let's say you have a deck. We're going to start with the deck or a porch. A grow bag or a pot or a green stalk might be your best bet. 1 green stalk. When it comes to a grow bag, is just like fabric, like a fabric pot, right? Pots typically lose more moisture. Grow bags typically lose more moisture. Pots can maybe sometimes hold in more moisture. Green stock will give you a lot more smaller pockets to grow a lot more things in a much smaller space. So you are working with a lot more plants that you can plant out, but you have to work with smaller plants. And that can be very overwhelming, and the most basic and most simple way might be the best bet. When it comes for bang for your buck, you can get about 4 to 10 grow bags, anywhere from, I want to say $15 to $40. Grow bags are going to be cheaper than pots because it's literally just fabric. You do not have to fill all of those grow bags in the first year. You can store some of them. You can use only 2 grow bags. Maybe you want to go ahead and do 5 grow bags and then grow a specific type of plant in each grow bag. That's fine. Pots can also work because you can get pots anywhere. When it comes to pots and grow bags, I personally would not start any smaller than a 10-gallon. 10-gallon to 20-gallon, in my opinion, is the best sizes for your grow bags because you can grow just about anything in those sizes. When you have too small, you're limiting yourself. When you have too big, it's hard to actually manage that, and it requires significantly more to fill it, which is going to require significantly more money. The ever long question: seeds or starts? This is not a competition. This is not a beauty pageant. This is not a who wins by doing this type of situation. Pick whichever one makes sense for you. When you start seeds and you don't have a structure outside, so it's getting natural sunlight, you don't already have the structure, you're going to find yourself spending even more money to create the infrastructure in your house, as well as light it, as well as warm it, as well a whole bunch of things. And that's going to run you a lot of money. It is definitely feasible. And if seeds is something that's important to you, can be done. You also can just toss the seeds outside once the appropriate time has arrived. Just know you're working on a much smaller time frame and you have much less room for error. Still very feasible. Please don't get it twisted and think, now, I just can't toss seeds. You most definitely can. And there are some seeds you need to just toss out there because they do better not being moved as they grow. Seeds gives you the ability to pick your variety across everything. There are a ton more variations of just about anything you can think about than you know. Peppers and tomatoes have some of the most variations. Honestly, it's insane and truly amazing, and you can fall down a rabbit hole. I'm talking with tomatoes, hundreds, I'm sure. Peppers is not far behind there. Are you growing sweet or spicy or mild? There's different variations of that as well. If you don't care for specific varieties, because I do find for some people, growing something that you can't get can keep pushing them to keep trying. If you're one of those people, seeds might be something you want to look into. Or if you don't care, or you're cool with buying your starts online, because buying starts online also opens up a bit more variations. Not as much as buying seeds would, but the variations does widen than just getting starts in somewhere around here, around where you live, right? Starts are much easier than seeds. They were going to require a lot less of your time. You can pre-order them in most places, like online and stuff. And or you can just pick up your behind and go to a store, whether big box, a greenhouse, support small business, and pick up some starts. And you can look and pick out these plants and pick out the healthiest plants and plant those out. And you've already gotten ahead of people who are starting with seeds and they don't really know what they're doing. And so there might be more failures. Either one works, please. Either one works. Pick the one where you feel like you're going to keep your sanity. Where do you get your sun? You might find you have property, but the sun actually hits the other part of your property better. Most plants need a minimum of 6 hours a day, minimum, of direct sunlight. That doesn't mean when the sun is up and it's bright outside, everywhere is fine to plant, for any plant. Some plants can handle shade, some cannot. Let's say you want to grow potatoes and lettuce. Potatoes need sunlight. Lettuce can deal with a pinch of shade. You can grow both in grow bags, pots, raised beds, in ground. I'm not going to touch too much on in ground. I feel like in ground, I'm not going to say it's easier because it really depends, but it can save you a lot of money, but you will need to do things to probably prep your soil to actually plant in it and get successful harvests. What is your budget? Because I just listed off a lot of things for you. And if you're growing in anything, even growing in ground will probably cost you money, because is your soil actually have nutrients? Is the soil the right texture, the consistency to grow things? Because a lot of people have really dense soil, and you can try to grow some plants and some plants might survive, but to raise the chances of survival, you want to make the soil more rich in nutrients and minerals and all those things, as well as a bit more loose, so it's easier for the roots to go down, especially if you're growing root crops. Root crops really typically need looser soil. So you'll find things probably about tilling and how, no, tilling up your soil is not good. Listen, I think actually nowadays you might find more people willing to talk about like tilling once, or tilling once a year or whatever. At least tilling one time to just dig up the soil to make it loose and workable, and dropping a little bit of nutrients on top of it. And every year you drop a coating of nutrients, just so that you are actually growing things, right? Because how does the food sustain us? We're getting all types of good things from it. Where did those plants get all those type of good things? The soil. So you need to make sure you have soil if you're going to grow in ground, because you might just have dirt. And the primary difference between soil and dirt is one has living things thriving in there and the other one does not. Right? So once you figure it out, even if, let's just say you have a pinch of land and you're like, I could put like 8 raised beds. Slow down, Savannah. Let's get 1 or 2. Fill those up with soil. Because now you have to put in your budget the purchasing of 1 or 2 raised beds and the purchasing of the amount of soil that is needed to at least 2/3 fill up that raised bed or raised beds, 1 or 2. Going from there, I do think it's very important that if you are growing in like a couple in a raised bed or a couple pots or a couple grow bags, to grow a couple different things. Just pick 1, 2, 3 different things. If you want to just focus on just tomatoes and you got 3 grow bags, you can grow 3 different types of tomatoes. And that would work in your favor, because you can also look, a lot of time when you go pick up starts or you go to purchase seeds, it will tell you the days to harvest. So you can pick one that will come in 60 days, one in 75 days, and one in 90 days. And that will give you different types of tomatoes. If you have the 3 grow bags or 1 raised bed and you want to grow multiple different things and just have a little bit of each thing to see what you know, how well incorporating these different things can work for you, that is also very useful. For example, let's say, because I already did the grow bags example, let's say you have 1 raised bed, okay, and she's 6 by 3. When it comes to raised bed, the square foot gardening method is probably your best bet if you're working with a lot less, like very minimal land, right? 6 by 3 means that you have 18 square foot typically in those raised beds. You should. If you end up cutting a cardboard or buying the square foot board, you're going to find that you're going to be more so working with 16, 15 square feet. Like, you're gonna lose some of the square footage, so it might be better to be thinking along the lines of about 15 square feet. So most of the bigger plants need 1 to 2 square feet. Remember when I said varieties comes into role here. The smaller the space you have, the less varieties and options you're gonna have in the big box stores picking up starts. And that might be okay because you only need 1 or 2 varieties, right? However, online you can really get some really cool varieties, and they'll go really small, really compact, and grow you a lot of things. Guys, that's for another video. You can grow in 15 square feet so many different things. Let's say you eat carrots or beans. Things like carrots or beans, you can grow a multiple of them in 1 square feet, 1 square foot. So let's say, people say you can grow 16 carrots in 1 square foot, but let's say you really grow about 9, so you can let them grow a little bigger. That is 9 carrots you can grow in 1 of those square foot, okay? Let's say you something like beans. You can grow, I think, like 4 bush beans in 1 square foot. That means that in 1 square foot, you are gonna have multiple harvests of these. 1 is considered root crop, whatever. You can grow something like a tomato or a pepper. They take up an entire square foot, and depending on whether it's a bushing type or you might want to give it 2 square foot. Vertical gardening is a whole nother beast that could utilize your growing, but I would, like I said, start small. Even if you have a 6 by 3 foot raised bed, you do not need to plant out 15 different crops in there. You could sit there and say, I'm gonna plant 3 tomatoes, toss a bunch of carrots in the middle, and then put a bunch of beans on the other side. That is actually probably your best bet. The more you simplify it, the more likely you are to minimize your stress, which will in turn raise your chances for success, right? So then you'll have your tomatoes, your carrots, and your beans. Remember, I said you don't have to take these exact items. Pick what you actually consume. Don't hear, oh my gosh, abundance, and abundance is tomatoes and radishes and potatoes, and you can't stand tomato products. Radishes are too spicy for you, and you don't like to have too many carbs like potatoes or whatever, because then you grow them and then you're not going to eat it, and now it's a waste. Make sure you're growing what you already consume. That's kind of like the big overarching gist of the most important, right? Let's run through it really quick again. What is the number of your growing days, and what zone are you in? That will then help you with the 1,000,001 things you could possibly be growing to eliminate what's not even feasible without extensive help, right? And from that list, what do you already eat? Pick out those things and look to see what's the easiest things to grow from that even smaller list, and pick out from there. Start small. You only need to grow a few things in the first year, whether that's a raised bed, a grow bag, in ground, or pots, stuff, vertical stuff. Start small. Even if you end up with something that's bigger, let's say you do go ahead and purchase a green stalk. The average green stalk has 5 tiers, I think 6 pockets per tier. You do not need to plant out 30 plants the first year, even though you have the green stalk, right? For 5 tiers. You could leave 3 tiers in your house unfilled and fill up 2 tiers, top them, and plant out those plants and keep it moving. Really test it out. Make sure you love it. Make sure you like it. Make sure it's something you can handle. And you want to eventually you'll create those systems that you know what you're doing, but you have to train yourself into doing those things. So starting small. Pick whether you're going to do seeds or starts, or if you're going to do a mixture of the two. Starts is going to be easier. Seeds is going to give you significantly much more options, variations, and I mean, it's a whole new world when it comes to seeds. Pick the best spot for the sun, because you need a minimum of 6 for most things. What is your budget? Your budget is going to shape probably what you're going to buy. and how much of it you can actually buy. What will you grow in? Like I just discussed about the raised beds, the pots, the bags, vertical. And guys, remember, yes, times are scary, but trying to operate on fear alone is not going to make it as successful as you think. Think about sustainability. I know that's a word that's tossed around a lot, but the ability to keep doing something or to reuse something over and over again is really what's going to help you in the long run. And it is a learned skill just like everything else. And I fully think that you're able to do it. And anyway, please don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. This channel is all about growing and harvesting. It's all about cooking things. I haven't dropped the cooking video, baking video yet, but I'm working on a bunch of different things. I do sourdough, I do yeast, I make desserts, foods that like for meals, breakfast, lunch, dinner, and I will be dropping those videos as well, because what do you do with the harvest after you've harvested it? We're here to answer those questions as well. Anyway, hopefully I see you in my next video. Bye-bye.